Oh God, you're a beautiful soul. Maybe I'm perceptive, my thoughts too collective, and my loving intercepted by the better player of teenage hormones with the number 12 written below on your back in white block letters. 12. That's the number you always got in your classes. You know, the ones that teachers give it up at the beginning of the year. 12. Dead smack in the middle. Never below the 10 mark, but never above the 20. You were always the middle child, even of your own house. Always living in the shadow of your more perfect older brother. And the adorable converse of your little sister, you tried to squeeze yourself into them, but they burst at the seams, and so did your dreams of ever being good enough. Or at least that's how I perceive it, from this side of the jail glass between us. I got slammed into this jail of forced social homogeneity, social structure. Suburban boxed hell. Did you ever think about that, my love? Suburbia boxes you into tiny little squares, leaving you in wonderment of how places like New York don't use cookie cutters to shape its inhabitants. But here, in this place full of people who will continually shove threads and resumes of their 4.2 philanthropist, UCLA attending children down your unwilling throat. But anyways, that's another story. Back to the jail cell in my orange jumpsuit. Do I look okay? Does it fit me well? Does it hug my hips like everything seems to do? Does the horribly hem pant leg fall fringed around my what you call them? Oh yeah, cankles? Can you hear me? All I want you to do is hear me. You came here to attempt to speak to me through this panel of junior high instability, didn't you? Can you hear me? I'll tell you how much I love you. I've told you so many times before. You're the apple of my eye, the virgin sacrifice in my heart, and the wretched beginning to my crash course poetry career. But the only thing I can feel is the smoke of the fire you started in my heart, crawling up and coagulating in my throat. Choke, choke, secondhand smoke, smoke that makes you choke, but at least it is air. You know what else I'm choking on? A broken Bob Marley record. Oh, everything's gonna be alright. No, Mr. Marley, it will not all be alright. And for a moment, I can forget what my once virginal ears heard from between your non-wind instrument playing lips. But at night, alone in my jail cell with nothing but the soft breathing of my decrepit and missing self-esteem, sitting in the corner, wasting away into ash, scattering into the rat's hole in the gray brick walls, I can hear your suggestions bouncing around in my head and permeating my each and every thought. Slut, whore, fat, ugly. Your dad should go to hell just months before Brian Kurt Miller's obituary landed in the newspaper, and I sat alone in a funeral service with nothing but the black lace of my dress to cling on to. And the word slut you wrote on my band folder in big black Sharpie, the only reminder of what you're pushing me to be. Slut, whore, fat, ugly, bulimic, cutter, depressed, psychopath. All right, you just tell me what you need, and I will be that for you. 2 years ago, that's how I felt. Every morning was a daze of confusion at why I woke up. Every good night was hopeful, and every good morning was so painful. Why? I am something called a true masochist. According to Merriam-Webster.com, I am masochistic. Adjective, deriving pleasure from being abused or dominated. 3 years I went through of suffering under an internal, unconditional love from my own bully who pushed everybody I had ever loved away from me. 3 years of having people I had never spoken to or met push me in front of a moving car, downstairs, into bushes, and write hateful comments on a Facebook page made specifically for me, and even send me messages from anonymous numbers to simply kill myself. And it was 3 years where my pathetic fragility was numbed by tests and medications and labels geared towards sociopaths and suicidal patients, and where terms like psychotic slut and depressed freak became more synonymous with my face than my own name. And it wasn't until November 8th, 2011 that I realized that I was actually starting to believe those things, all those words. I looked down at the long sleeves and tugged at the skin on my stomach that made it churn with frustration and a desire to be thinner, to meet his ones. And I looked at the flat, beeping line on the screen next to a body that no longer looked like my dad, and I thought, 3 things. 1, I am completely and utterly alone. 2, I don't want to be like this anymore. And 3, how many calories am I burning right now as I'm sitting here crying? 2 years ago, I was a lot different from the person you see here today standing in front of you, with my big mouth and my big personality, you know. Believe it or not, at some point I was actually quiet. But only because there was already too much in my head. Too much that told me to kill myself, that I was fat and ugly, that I was a disappointment. And most of all, the tiny voice in the back of my head that sounded like my daddy that said, you are just one orange bottle away from making everybody around you happy. All of a result of a bullying that led to the creation of a bullet that shot straight through my self-esteem, my heart, my voice, my desire to live, and sent it straight through my happiness, my sanity, and ricocheted onto the skin of my wrists. The most pride I can say that I have in my life is that that time in my life is over. Am I saying that I no longer cry myself to sleep most nights? No, I do. Am I saying that even though I have a wonderful and loving and doting boyfriend, that I have this multitude of self-esteem? No, I struggle with body dysmorphia. I will not leave my house without makeup on, and I have a breakdown generally every morning just deciding what clothes to pick out to wear for the day because I just feel that bad about myself. I am not proud of what remnants of that time remain, but I am proud of 2 things. 1, I am Chloe Ann Miller, 2 dots above the E, and that, my friends, is called an umlaut, special kind of accent, do not forget. And I am a survivor of bullying. And 2, I am Chloe Ann Miller, and I am learning to love myself again. So if you allow me, I'd like to close with a poem much similar to the first one, entitled A Story Embodied. I am somewhere under the impression that I am somewhere between sunlight and rock bottom, somewhere between dreams and restless nights, somewhere between being angry or just an artistic soul. Take a look at my palm. Between my heart and my lifeline, you'll notice my prominent collarbones, my shoulders, and my saxophone lips. But if you crawl down to the no longer virgin skin of my wrists, you'll notice the hated stomach, voice, and birthing unit hips. If you follow the red line trail up to X marks the spot where the cracks in my skin allow the lies to seep out and the manipulation in, but if you just follow across to my heart, put your palm across my chest and feel the weight of my I'm sorries, and feel the strength of my passion for manipulating the English language. Fall down to my newly emptied stomach where my few, but there, teaspoons of self-esteem have just been fed to my poor friends who have absolutely none. And if you trace the melted veins of my hips, notice his handprints tattooed on as a constant and permanent reminder that I am now and forevermore in a place where I feel confident and strong and beautiful and unafraid. Follow down to the knees that buckle under the weight of God's prayer because I am a constant disappointment to my mother, my friends, and my family. But if you follow the curves of my calves down to the tan lines around my ankles from marching band shoes, you'll notice the pride I have for my band. For the pride I have for my poetry when I spend hours and hours writing about the beauty of crossed ankles and about the beauty of the way a cigarette looks held in a human hand. Backtrack to my paranoid head that tells me that everybody who loves me is going to leave me. But if you fall down to my hazel eyes, you'll see that they always connect with her green ones as a constant reminder that even at the worst days, At the end of the day, I have a loyal and beautiful and talented best friend to come home to. And this is the story of my body, where curves and scars abound, and a story is told. I am a victim of bullying, bulimia, and self-harm, but I am also a survivor of the worst, a therapist to some, and a very, very, very proud girlfriend to one. I am struggling and fighting through every single day of my life, and I absolutely love it. Thank you.